I'm here today with Emma James, otherwise known as the Number Ninja. And Emma's going to talk to us about how to get started with Xero. So this is a really basic introduction to Xero. So hi, Emma, how are you today?
I'm well, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you. Do you want to just tell people a little bit about you and, why Xero is good and all that kind of stuff?
So I'm Emma. Hello. I do bookkeeping and accountancy services for small and micro businesses and freelancers. I am a Xero only practice, so I don't go anywhere near any other account software. The main reason for that is because I think Xero is the best. It's completely cloud. They are continuously developing it. So I think last year they made somewhere in the region of around 1,500 updates, which you just do not get with the likes of Sage and the other old gang, if you like. It's really intuitive to use. It's good for people like me, but it was designed to be used by business owners. So it looks good, it's easy to use, it's simple. All of the technical stuff is there, but it's hidden. So if you've ever used Sage, you need a degree in Sage to be able to use it properly. But with Xero, you can just pick up and get going with it. And it also integrates really well with other apps, so things like Zapier, auto entry for expenses, receipt bank, Capsule, all sorts of things. So it's at the heart of a lot of systems. So I love it.
Okay, so it sounds absolutely ideal, as you say, for micro businesses, people who need to keep a real close eye on their day-to-day finances, and don't necessarily just want the end-of-year accounts that a lot of businesses get from an accountant.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, so it's about the day-to-day running of the finances of a business, the back office, as it were.
Yeah, I mean, Xero, as with any other account software, works best if it's kept up to date regularly. So when we start having a look at it, we'll see that it's got a really nice dashboard overview. So if you've got 2 minutes at the start of the day, you can just go in and get a really, really good idea as to where your business is and how it's going.
Yeah, and we both highly recommend that.
We do.
To our viewers. Okay, right, over to you then, Emma. So if you want to do a screen share and show us the dashboard and what goes on, that would be great.
So hopefully that is showing Xero now. Okay, so as I was saying before, this is so you're going to get the side of my head now, I think, because I've got a different screen. So yes, this is the dashboard that you will see when you first come into Xero. You can play around with this a little as to what it looks like, but I think this view is quite nice. So I normally suggest looking at this at least once a day, and you're looking at, you've got the business bank accounts and other cash in and out on the left hand side, and a little bit more detail about what those numbers are on the right hand side. With Xero, you can add your bank feeds to it. So you can have a feed that updates every day. So Xero just pulls information directly from the bank. It's a one-way feed, so there's no risk or danger of Xero making payments on your behalf or anything. It's just pulling information from the bank. And then you can see this nice little graph here about cash in and out. The blue is money coming in and the grey is what you're spending.
That's a nice healthy balance.
It is a nice healthy balance. I'm just about to say what you're ideally wanting is higher blues and much lower greys.
Yeah.
But obviously if like in January, we're really early on in January, so we probably haven't got the cash in from invoices yet. So it's not a huge area for concern, but that if we were towards the end of January, we might start getting a bit concerned about this little bar here.
Yeah.
With a lot of things in Xero, text and numbers are clickable, and these bars are as well. So you can although you've got this high level view, you can dig deeper into the numbers as well and see exactly what they're made up of. So, for example, if I jump over to this side where we've got the invoices owed to us, so that's sales that we've made. We know how many invoices we've got awaiting payment, but we've also got this red number here, which is that we've got 7 that are overdue. And if we click into that, you get much more detail about these invoices. And you can go further and further in, so you can actually see the invoice that you sent to the client.
Right.
But it's quite good. So yeah, red means that you really need to start doing something about it. And as with the general cash in and out, you've got a nice little graph here as well for people who are a bit more visual.
Okay. And Emma, before you go on any further, is this a free account or is this a paid for account? What kind of payment plans are we looking at here?
So there are quite a few different options. If you were to just go and buy it yourself as an individual, then what we're looking at here is the standard business plan that they call it, and that is £22 a month plus VAT.
Right.
If you need multiple currency, so you're making sales and purchases and you have separate bank accounts for different currencies, then that is £27.50. But if you're a Xero partner, so people like me, the accountants and bookkeepers, we have access to a lot of other plans, which can really bring the price down quite a bit.
Okay.
But yeah, somewhere in the region of around 20-ish, particularly if you just go off and buy it yourself.
Okay. So what you're saying is that people can do this themselves. They can buy it and set it up themselves.
Yes.
Or they can come to someone like you and you will set up the account for them and presumably charge them for that, the £22 or whatever it is, along with your fees.
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay.
A lot of people like me, so I get, because I'm a partner in Xero, I get discounts as well, and that's passed on to clients too. So it does bring the price down quite a bit.
And one more question before I let you move on. If someone decides that they want to take over from you once they get used to it, and so they want to switch from you holding their account, their Xero account, to them holding it themselves, is that an easy thing to do?
It is really, really easy. Okay. You can change subscribers really simply. So it's just simply a case of going in, entering the email address of the person that you want to. So for example, if I'd set this up and I wanted to then pass it on to you, you would already be a user in Xero because you would have been possibly doing things yourself or at least having a look.
Yeah.
I just click you, say I wanted to transfer, you'd get an email with a link, you'd accept it, and then that would be it.
Okay, so it can go either way.
Yeah. So the person who you're transferring it to has to accept, but presumably there's been some sort of conversation beforehand anyway, hopefully. Yes. So yeah, it's really, really straightforward.
Okay, good. Okay. Oh, sorry, that's just something else. So if, and you've probably gathered this is prompted by questions I've had from other people.
Yeah.
If you were to, for some reason or other, be incapacitated, so you couldn't access my Xero account, could I get into it easily myself?
Yeah, so when I set things up for people, even if they're not going to be using it themselves, so I'm going to be doing everything for them, I always give people an account, so they always have access to it. Normally, they have either full access, because there are lots of different permission levels, or they certainly have enough access that they'd be able to look at the bank, do invoices, have a look to see who they needed to pay, all of that sort of stuff.
That's great. But a few control issues here, as you can
tell. And I guess on the subject of that, you can have, so when the Xero subscription that you pay for, you are paying for the organisation, I guess. So if you are a team, or even if you work on your own, you have a VA or something, then it doesn't matter how many other users that you add on, you're still just paying that one charge. So it's not like things like Sage or desktop versions of things where you have to pay per user.
Yeah.
And so you could have all of your team with access, but say 2 of them can only issue sales invoices, or someone can only look at a particular area. So you can tie it down quite nicely. So lots of people can have access for like continuity planning or whatever, but you can lock it down so that only certain people can do the slightly dangerous stuff.
Okay, good. That's great. Thank you. Really, really useful stuff to know.
So say on the right hand side we've got sales and purchases, and we'll come to these in a bit more detail later on. But another really nice feature, I think, is this account watch list at the top. And you can specify which accounts or categories, types of expenses or income that you have in this grid up here. And you can tie these to your goals for that year. So say, for example, this year I've got a £10,000 loan from the bank. And one of my main goals this year is to pay that off. And I want to quite aggressively pay it off as well. So you can see this loan account here. And this year, or this month, I've paid £250 off of that. And for the full year, the balance of that is £9,750. So you can keep an eye each month how you're doing that month and how you're doing against your goals for the year as well. And like I've got sales up here too. So if I want to grow by a particular percentage this year, then I can just have a quick look. I can drill down if I want to, but I can have a really high level look and check to make sure how I'm going. So say, for example, this financial year, I want to hit 60,000. I'm at 30, a little over 31 at the moment. If I've got 2 months left of my financial year, then I'm either not going to make that target or I need to start making some changes. So so you can go and have a look in more detail, but it's just a nice quick look to see how you're doing against the goals that you're setting.
It beats a spreadsheet, doesn't it?
It does beat a spreadsheet. It does. Because it works better if you only have a few categories. If you put all of them in there, then you're better off using a different report. But it is quite handy for certain things. So that's the dashboard.
Okay.
So something that is definitely worth looking at least in the morning, I would say, just so you can see what you've got. So say you've got some sales overdue, you can start chasing those, or if you need to pay some suppliers, you know exactly what you're doing there.
Yeah. Are you going to go into a bit more detail about each of those now?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So the first one to go into a little bit more detail is the bank account. So you can set up different bank accounts in Xero. I would suggest that you link these directly to the bank with an automatic feed. And then so it's just pulling the information in. And you then see this reconciliation screen, which when you first look at it might seem slightly scary, but it's basically a game of Snap. So on the left-hand side, you've got everything coming in from the bank. So this is, in effect, your bank statement. What is on the left isn't technically in Xero at the minute. What is on the right-hand side, this is where we're actually entering the transactions into Xero. If you have been keeping on top of your expenses, so every time you've purchased something, you've entered that expense into Xero, which we'll come on to later. All of your sales invoices have been done through Xero and all the rest of it. Then when you come into here, you should get all greens. So Xero will try and match where it can, where it has something in there. So say it's got an invoice or an expense, and it looks at the bank statement and it's looking at the date, the amount, the name of the company, and it tries to match up. So it's trying to help you out as much as it can. You still get the final say. So say for this one, it's decided that these two are the same. Looks all good to me. Same company, same date, the same amount. And so we can then click OK, and that is matching the two off against each other. Because what you're wanting to do is make sure that everything that has gone through the bank, whether purchases or income, is being recorded in your account software.
Yeah.
Because if it isn't, your accounts aren't up to date. So if we click OK, that disappears, and then we just move on to the next one. So you're wanting this reconciliation number up the top to go down to 0, and you're wanting these two figures up the top here to match each other. So the one on the left is your bank balance in your actual bank account. So this is quite a nice, and you can see this on the dashboard as well. But if you wanted to have a quick look to see what your bank balance was, you wouldn't necessarily need to go into your online banking. You can just come into Xero and have a look. And then the right is what Xero thinks you have. So that is a lot lower at the minute because we haven't finished this reconciliation. We haven't recorded the income coming in yet.
Right.
So ideally you'd have lots of grains, so you could just click OK and clear all of those. Xero is a really good tool if you do have a bookkeeper or accountant to discuss things with them. So some people want to do their own bookkeeping on a day-to-day basis, but want someone like me to just have a look over it every few weeks or once a month or whatever. And you can use this discuss area to have a little chat with each other. So say for this one, for this invoice, they didn't know what to do with it. So a quick little comment in there, I can go in, see what they've written, and then I will make a decision as to where that needs to go. So that's a really nice tool, and I can use it to talk to them as well.
Right.
So all of these grains are entries that we've already entered in Xero before, and we're just matching them against the bank statement. So that's for things like you've bought coffee, you've bought printing or paper or whatever. So things where you get a receipt for, you have paperwork for it. Here we've got a bank fee, so an account fee for the bank account. And other than the item on the bank statement, you don't get any paperwork for it. It's not something you really buy, in a sense. So there's nothing to match it off against in Xero, but we still need to record it. It's still money that we're spending. So you can just create it directly through the bank screen. So it's really nice to see that you don't have to, you can do everything on this screen. You don't have to move away from it and come back later. And Xero will learn over time as well. So after a few months of the statements coming through and you constantly saying, this is Ridge Rate Bank, it's bank fees, it's the account bank fee. Next time you come in, Xero will say, oh, this is, you coded it in this way last time. Is this what you want to do again? So at the very beginning, you will need to manually enter these in, but over time, Xero will help you out. It will learn what you're doing. And then similarly with the green, you can just click OK and record that and reconcile it. Another way of dealing with those sorts of things, particularly the bank fees, is by rules. So say, for example, this 7-Eleven is, I don't know, we get a newspaper delivered every day, 11, and we don't get a proper invoice or receipt from the newsagent. We've got a direct debit set up with them, so we just pay them each week. We can set that up once as a rule, and then every time this comes through from 7-Eleven for that amount, we can say, yeah, code it to that. So you're not having to redo it all of the time. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So we've got this one here for the Cooper Street Bakery. as with the bank fee before, say we want to enter this, we do actually have a receipt, but we haven't entered it in Xero yet. We can start adding the information in, and we can add a document to it. So say we've got a photograph of the receipt, or they've sent us a PDF by email. You can add files in, and I won't click this because it was playing up a little bit this morning and it'll download somewhere else. But you can, I think it's my computer, you can add files in so that you can always see the actual receipt within Xero. So you don't have to, you might want to keep the paper copies. You don't need to as far as HMRC is concerned, but you might want to keep that hard copy or a separate electronic copy somewhere else. But if you're in Xero and you came in here and you're like, I can't remember what that was for, you can just click into the document and it will just open up and you can have a look at it. That's really, really handy.
So if you wanted to do an analysis of your expenses, sort of management account type stuff, you could do it like that, because you could then separate out what you were buying, on postage or stationery or cream cakes or whatever.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think that's probably as much as we need to see on the bank reconciliation screen. And so the general idea is just that you're wanting to clear everything from the bank statement and you're wanting to make an entry into Xero.
Yeah.
And I guess the important thing to remember is until you have something on this right-hand side, none of these items on the left are actually in Xero. So they're not appearing in any reports or anything like that.
Yeah. So you really want those two numbers at the top to match, as you say.
Really do. And if they don't, there are other tools that on the right hand side that you can go into to try and work out why that's not happening. But generally speaking, everything will match off. Okay, so sales is probably one of the key areas that people are looking at when they are going into Xero. So this is another example of where Xero's design is just quite nice, and you don't have to go into loads and loads of detail to be able to see what you want. So this is a sales area, and you've got these 4 boxes relating to invoices. So probably the ones you're mainly interested in, the overdue, so what people haven't paid yet, so you need to start chasing those customers. What is coming up, so it's not yet due, but it will be due in the near future. And then these 2, draft and awaiting approval. Some people don't use them at all, and some people do. It depends on your business and your team as well. So say you work with a VA, or you have an admin assistant, and you want them to prepare the invoices for you, but you want to review them before they actually go out to the client. So they could have access to Xero, prepare the invoices, and then just mark them as either draft or awaiting approval. Then you come in, go into that area and just approve them, and then they can be sent out. What you can also do is you can have, going on to draft, you can have repeating invoices. So say you have, this works really well if you have monthly retainers for clients. So you always invoice the client monthly, and it's generally for the same amount with the same description. So you can set up repeating invoices that will, and you can determine whether they are just automatically approved and sent, or whether they're sent to draft. And then if we got into Rex, so it will create, you say when you want it to be created. So this one's the 8th of the month. The 8th of every month we invoice this client for their desktop support. So the 8th of the month comes and a draft invoice is automatically created by Xero. And then You just come in, have a quick look, make sure everything's okay, click approve, and then that invoice can be sent. And invoices can be sent direct through Xero as well. And you get, the client will get a PDF, an email with a PDF attachment, and also a link to view the invoice online. And the invoice online looks like this. You can add what Xero call payment services, so things like Stripe, PayPal, Go Cardless. You can integrate those with Xero so that when someone gets your invoice and they look at it online, or they click that link in the PDF, they see this page, and they also have this green Pay Now button as well. And then that will take them off to whatever you set up. So yes, Stripe or whatever. So it's making it as easy as possible for people to give us money, which we like.
Yes. Again, highly recommended.
Yes. So it's how reducing those barriers as well. And I think Xero found that having something like those payment services knocks off on average about 2 weeks of people paying you. So that is really good.
Excellent.
We go back to sales. We also have something called quotes. So say you're preparing proposals for a customer, you can deal with that within Xero as well. So if we have a look at this one that we've sent, you can say what it's for, you can attach documents. So say you were doing, I don't know, plans for something, you can attach your documents. So say this was something you were sending, or I was sending, and I have little help sheets for people. So I could add this to the proposal. This then goes again through Xero by email to the client. They open it up online and can accept, decline, or comment on it. And once the quote is accepted, you can then invoice directly. You can use that to create the invoice. So if we look at accepted and look at this one, so you're not having to enter the same information over and over again. So not everyone uses quotes within Xero, but it is particularly handy for certain types of businesses. Particularly if there's not going to be too much back and forth between you and the client over what is in the proposal.
You mean when they don't come back and ask for a discount?
Yeah. So we've got an accepted quote here, and then we can just create the invoice directly through that. And that will pull all of the information out from that quote. So it's for the brochure, it's £400, and it's to these people. There's nothing stopping you amending this. So if we wanted to add second brochure, you can do. It just means that it's all of the information's there, so you're not having to do that double entry. So again, it's something trying to reduce the amount of effort that it's taking to keep all of these things up to date.
Yes, because as we know, people absolutely love doing their books, don't they?
Yeah, they do. They look forward to it every week. Or every
that's all really, really good. And as someone who doesn't do the books, this is really great. It's I can see that it has huge appeal and is really, really useful.
So I know that some people within the Drive group laugh at me when I say that bookkeeping can be fun, but it really can be. And I think this is a really, really good system for that. So you're playing Snap when you come to do the bank rec. The doing invoice is just really, really straightforward, and it's just simple. It's not a hassle to come in and do it. So similarly with sales invoices, we got a similar sort of thing for purchases. So things that you're buying As with sales, we've got the 4 boxes along the top, so we can see what we need to pay. Down here, you can see the dates when they're due. This sort of green box here shows that we've actually paid it already. So again, a really nice visual way of being able to see what you need to pay and when that's coming out. So it's not quite a cash flow forecasting, but it's giving you that idea.
Yeah.
And if we've been buying things on credit that went into February and March, you can click along the bottom here to see future months as well.
I think that, along with the bank reconciliation, is pretty good for cash flow, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
And also knowing what invoices are overdue, and I mean, you've got a real complete picture there. It's excellent.
Yeah, I would say that this, certainly the dashboard, gives you, I think that gives most people enough information for what they need on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah.
You might want to go in and look in a bit more detail, maybe it's once a week at something, just to make sure that everything that you're planning on doing is using these numbers to inform those decisions. But I think on a day-to-day basis, there's enough information here to be able to run the business.
Yeah.
Or not make any crazy decisions anyway. And as you'd expect with this sort of software, you can use purchase orders as well if your business uses that. I think probably the final thing to look at that's going to be of real use is the reporting side of things. Xero has a huge number, as you can see here, and this isn't even all of them. It has a huge number of standard reports. So these will probably meet the requirements of everyone. You can customize these if you need to, or you can get someone like me to customize them. Xero partners like me have access to create completely custom reports as well. But I personally haven't come across anyone who isn't served by these reports. So there's loads of them. They give loads of detail, and they are super useful.
Yeah, even payroll, that's really good, isn't it?
Yeah.
So
if we have a quick look at the profit and loss, just so we can see what these things look like, you can export these reports to PDF, Excel, or Google Sheets, and then play around with it if you wanted to. As with most other things, these numbers are clickable, so we can dig down into what these figures are actually made up of. So we've got this figure in advertising and marketing, and then we can see what that actually was for, which is really useful.
Yeah. Could you just explain a bit about perhaps doing a VAT return using the information here?
So VAT return is just down as one of the reports in that area. So if you're used to seeing what the VAT return looks like, if you submit through HMRC, then this is just basically the form that is used. As long as you're entering all of the purchases and sales correctly in Xero and you are up to date, get all those caveats in, then this return will pull all of that information out for you. It's definitely worth checking before you submit, but this will have done most of the work for you. All the numbers will be in the right boxes. It can cope with all of the various VAT schemes. So if you're on the cash accountant scheme or flat rate, if anyone is still on that. And you can have a look at previous returns. It includes any late claims. So say you'd submitted your return for the quarter ended September, and then some suppliers sent some invoices after that date, but that were actually dated, say, the 1st of September, because sadly some people do that. Enter that into Xero as normal, but then as long as this include that late claims is ticked, that will just bring that up into the next return. So you don't need to worry about trying to remember those. You can have a look at how this return is actually made up. So all of the sales that you've made, if you'd made Xero rated sales, they would appear as a separate section as well. So this is actually quite a nice short one, but if you had loads and loads, you can take this off to Excel again if you wanted to go through it, or you can just have a quick look through to make sure that everything looks okay. So that you don't have anything in here, I know, say like stamps that you've entered as 20% when they should be exempt. So it's having that final check before you submit. And then you can submit directly through Xero. So with this file VAT now option, you have the option to either just close that return off in Xero and then go and file it yourself on HMRC if you wanted to do that, so you had changes you wanted to make, or you can just file directly through Xero, so entering your HMRC information into Xero, and then that will just automatically publish that way.
Brilliant.
Was there anything else on the VAT return?
No, that all looks really straightforward.
Okay. Yes, I think that's probably enough information, hopefully. I say it can do so many different things, but as you can see, for quite a big detailed system, the menus up the top are quite straightforward. You don't need like a map to try and work your way through the entire system. And it's relatively jargon free as well. So as we saw on the dashboard, it's cash in and out. So because that's how people think of it. So you don't want to come in, it's pointless, like a business owner coming in and then seeing all of these accountancy terms, because they'll just log off again and then come to it next year. They just won't touch it. So it's really easy to use, and it's nice to pick up as well. You mentioned expense claims and being able to put them in electronically and not keep paper. How does that work? Do you have to connect this up to an app to do that? So there are lots and lots of different ways that you can get that information into Xero. I use a separate app called Auto Entry, simply because that's something that my clients find easiest to use. Or you can, Xero have a good app that's getting better and better all of the time as well themselves, that you can, and I think Carl might use this for Xero. You can have that on your phone, take a picture of the receipt while you're out and about, and enter the information directly into Xero while you're standing waiting for your coffee in Starbucks or whatever. Or you can do it through the browser here. So it's a bill, so it's something we've paid. So you've got the either a photograph of the receipt on your phone, or you've received a PDF invoice by email, or however you've got it. We can enter the details in here. See what we might have bought. Yeah, let's just say coffee. And then we can either drag and drop in a document into Xero, or you can have them, you can send your documents to the Xero file library. I've used all of the documents I'd had, so let's just use this one. In your Xero account, you have your own unique Xero email address, and that is a direct email into your Xero file library. So when you get emails in, so invoices from printers or whatever they are, you can forward that email to your Xero being, and then they will pop that into the file library. And then when you come into Xero to enter all of the information, you can just pick that file out of the library and do it that way. So yeah, there are lots and lots and lots of different ways of getting it in there. and it's whatever works best, really. But I would always say definitely to add the documents to Xero, because I think it works best when it has the documents in there as well.
Yeah, excellent. That's really great. I'm impressed.
Good.
It's funny, isn't it? I hear people talking about it so often, but I've never, as I say, I don't do the accounts, so I have no need for this. But having had it explained like this, I think it's absolutely brilliant. Yeah.
And so it really comes into its own as well, because they're integrated so much too. So they have their own marketplace, and there are about 500 apps, I think, in there. And obviously it integrates with things like Zapier, so then it integrates with even more software. Yeah, I think it is the best software out there.
Okay. So is there anything else you want to show us on the screen?
I don't think so. So
okay. That's great.
There we go.
So that really was a revelation. So any last words you want to leave us with? I mean, we can put this online, obviously, and people can come back and ask you questions that have arisen because of this. But is there anything else that you want to just finish up with, Emma?
Yeah, I think I'd just say to not, whether you're using Xero or any other different software like QuickBooks or whatever, to not be scared of it. To make sure that you keep it updated. These bits of software are really simple to use, but they are only useful if you keep the information in there up to date. So if you've got the app on your phone, do that every single time you buy something. Make sure that you're doing it at least weekly, I would say, for most people. While it is something that you can definitely just pick up and start running with, as with a lot of this sort of stuff, I would always recommend having a chat with someone like me or an accountant or another bookkeeper, just to make sure that it's being set up in the best way for your business. There's so much in Xero that I haven't covered. So that, for example, you can track if you've got multiple shop locations, or you operate in multiple regions, you can track income and expenses by those different areas. And it's always worth having a chat with someone who knows Xero well and can set it up exactly for your business.
Yeah. So what about something like Shopify, where you've got an online shop? Can that be linked directly?
Yeah. So most of the more modern things like Shopify and they all have integrations with Xero. So it's pretty smooth for how it gets in there.
Yeah. And as you said at the beginning, it links to CRM. So any customers that are coming through, with their details on invoices or payment receipts, can presumably then through Zapier or whatever can be added to a CRM.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah. So for example, I use Capsule, and you can have a two-way link. So when you enter new people in Xero, they can be created in Capsule, and when you send them invoices and when they pay, that information is updated in Capsule. So if you're looking at them in Capsule, you can see what they've got outstanding or whatever. And when you add someone new to Capsule, it's adding them as a contact in Xero as well. It's having that really smooth. So
it really is about handling information once.
It's touching things as little as possible. Having that information everywhere you need it to be.
So all those things that business owners hate to do, which takes them away from their business. It's all there. It's brilliant. Yeah, really, really good. Emma, thank you so much. That really was a very, very useful session. As I said earlier, we'll put Emma's details on the video when we send it out. So if you've got any other questions for Emma, you'll be able to get in touch with her direct, or you can do that through the Drive Facebook group, in which case everybody learns from everybody else's questions. That's a really good way to do it as well. So Emma, thanks again. That was, as I say, absolutely superb. Really, really excellent. Thanks for your time.
Yeah, thank you. Bye.